We are D-Infinity, and we are the fire. We are the match, and we are the pyre. And 20 points for your house, if you know where that comes from. Hello, and welcome to D-Infinity Live. I am your host, William Big T Thrasher. With me, as always, is Michael Jolly Varhola and Brendan. He's pretty happy, Cass. And joining us tonight, very, very special guest, the associate editor of Ravage Magazine, Enrico Nardini.
Yo!
Recurring guest, and we've got a great topic tonight. Tonight's topic is what the fuck gaming industry moments. We're going to talk about all the blunders, missteps, unforgivable slights, and mind-bogglingly stupid things that have happened in the tabletop gaming industry. We are going to have some fine grist for this mill. But before we get into that, Brendan, what is happening this week on our website, d-infinity.net?
Chris Van Deelen has posted Chapter 5 of his post-apocalyptic sci-fi epic, Buck Who. So, Chapters 1 through 4 are also up there. So if you've been reading along, now you can finally see Chapter 5. If you haven't been reading along, checked out Chapters 1 through 5, and then checked out Chapter 5. I am going to do a bit of self-promotion here because I don't post a ton of things on the website. I'm usually making sure it's running and rebooting servers when all of our traffic crashes it all of a sudden. But I did manage to develop from Will's very own Jester Dragon's random tavern generator. I was able to turn that into a automated random tavern generator, and that's still on the front page of the website right now. It made me Reddit famous and attracted about 5,000 people in a couple hours.
Yep.
They had a really good time with it. They gave me a lot of good feedback on it. I'm still making modifications to make it an even more useful tool, but what it does is it gives you a floor plan, so an actual image that you can blow up and then print out if you like to have your players set their miniatures on. And it also gives you a description based on the excellent content in Will's random generator. So I recommend everybody checks that out. Not only check it out, bookmark it so that you can bring it up when your players inevitably stop by the tavern that you didn't plan for them to stop by when they enter the town.
In 2 clicks, you got that tavern.
Your players have to deal with the random and superfluous color animal inn.
Right. Instead, it can be stand by while it loads.
Oh, we're getting a live demonstration right now.
Instead of the
random
hound, it's the beggar's hound.
All right, good.
Who apparently doesn't welcome half elves.
Well, who does? Oh my gosh, here we go.
So who doesn't welcome?
So it begins. Fantasy racism. It's just like one of the most pervasive concepts of all fantasy writing, honestly.
Well, because it's safe racism.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And that is its own topic we're going to have to handle in a future episode.
As long as we're talking on a tangent that eclipses the entire episode right from the beginning. As long as you're talking about the most popular item on D-Infinity Online this week, which is your random tavern generator, I'll mention the second most popular item, which is my campaign report on our most recent official skirmisher game, a Swords of Coast game set on the volcanic island of Porphyros, and it is called Against the Cult of Polyvotes. So that's actually a lot of fun, and we've had a lot of fun with it, and I think it'll bring people back to some real classic games they might have had. So I'd encourage people to check that out as well.
You see, it was a good article, but I wasn't going to mention it because you told me I wasn't allowed to comment on it anymore.
It's only half true, and you know that.
And Mike, as long as we've got our focus on you, what is going on with our co-publisher Skirmisher?
Two kinds of things are going on right now. I'll mention the product-oriented things first. We released a new product this week. Speaking of Chris Van Deelen, it is issue number 50 of Wisdom from the Wastelands, and it's really kind of a cool issue. It's a good tool. It's already gotten 2 4- or 5-star reviews just since we came out with it on Wednesday, yesterday. It's called Artifact Quality, and it's a series of guidelines and tables for determining how to tweak a weapon or a vehicle or a suit of armor or medications that you might find in a post-apocalyptic environment depending on what kind of condition they're in. So it really addresses the potency or power of various items depending on what kind of condition they're in. So this would be a supplement that someone could use for the Mutant Future game or Gamma World, Mutant Future being a retro clone of Gamma World. So Wisdom from the Wastelands, issue number 50, Artifact Quality. We came out with that just yesterday, and I would encourage people to check that out. The other thing that's going on with Skirmisher is Brendan and I have been continuing to refine the itinerary for our cross-country trip. We're going to be driving from Chicago to North Carolina and stopping at game stores and meeting with game industry professionals all along the way. So we've been nailing down what we're going to be doing in a little more detail. We're going to be going to a great store. First, we're going to be starting off with Geek Bar in Chicago. I think I had mentioned that before, but we're going to be starting off with the Geek Bar in Chicago. That is a bar where people game. So we're still working out the details of exactly what we're going to do, but Wednesday, March 4th, that's 6 days from now, we're for sure going to be there running a demo game and just meeting and greeting people. We might be there Thursday. We're still trying to figure out if we can make that happen, if they want to see us 2 nights. On this show, we talk a lot about field work and research and the importance of that sort of thing to game development. Well, Brendan and I are going to be spending Thursday then at the Field Museum. And this is actually a really cool museum in Chicago. Anyone who has seen the movie The Relic about this horrible monster that terrorizes people in a museum, that's the Field Museum. So cool. We're going to be going there and doing research at their Voodoo exhibit, their Vikings exhibit, and their Sue the Tyrannosaurus Rex exhibit. Cool. And then we're going to continue on. We're going to visit a great store called Game Quest in Fort Wayne, Indiana. We're going to be visiting a store called Game Master in Pittsburgh and meeting with the proprietor there. We're going to be seeing Rico when we're in Pittsburgh and some of our other associates. We're going to be going to the Kruger Street Toy and Train Museum in Wheeling, West Virginia. So we're just doing anything that ties in with gaming and related subjects, as much of it as we can, on our way cross-country from Chicago to North Carolina. So if you're in any of the areas I just mentioned or you think you might be on our route, let's figure out how we can get together. We're going to be trying to spend a couple hours at least everywhere we go so that we can see and spend time with friends and fans and potential contributors and whatever.
And if you see Mike, give him a hug.
If you see Mike, if you're not some slovenly neckbeard, give me a hug.
Even
also,
if you are.
Tug on his beard. They say it's good luck.
Guy needs a hug. Give him a hug.
I'll take a hug. That's fine.
It recharges his jolly.
Right.
That sounds dirty.
It really does.
Just a little bit. All right, and Rico, what do you have going on right now?
I'll shamelessly plug. I'll try to keep it short though. So,
that sounded dirty too.
I am now the associate editor of Ravage Magazine. It's more of a lateral shift from where I was. I'm still doing stuff for Tabletop Gaming News, so make sure you check that out. But the first thing, I'm really excited about it because it's a pretty sweet print magazine, primarily dealing with miniatures and board games, which is my power alley. Though I'm involved in all aspects of gaming. You can check it out. You have links that you're posting, right? So I don't need to plug the actual links.
Nope. Oh yeah, that's going up on the event page right now.
Yeah, so you can find the links there, but you can buy Ravage in print or digital format. There's an app for it on iTunes. You can check me out there. In the latest issue, issue 18, I've got 3 different articles, and that I'm sure you'll love. 2 of them are product reviews. One of them is an article on my philosophy, my philosophy on tournament gaming and kind of convention gaming, refracted through this awesome event that Privateer Press runs called Iron Arena. And so it's using that as the lens, as kind of a way of looking at, this is a really great way to do casual, but still like have a kind of a tournament feel gaming that's very inclusive. So There's that. There's the pieces that I do for Tabletop Gaming News. I'm trying to get Play Unplugged back and on board. It's been a little bit stagnant. I'm trying to get something up, at least one thing new a week. It's just very hard with the rest of my work schedule. It's still my pet project, but it is on the back burner compared to the other things that I'm doing at the moment. I want to be Twitter famous, so go like me at Enrico on Games, and you can hear me occasionally write something whimsical in 140 characters. For my own personal edification, and beyond that, that's it. I mean, like that's it's a lot though. It might not sound like a lot, but it is a lot.
It sounds like a lot. I know what it's like to have a lot on your plate. That sounds like a lot. I know that's just gonna eat up the hours. I know.
Yeah. So and with we've got I'm already working on obviously the next issue because with print mag you work a little bit farther ahead, and that's annoying. So I'm gonna put it on silent. I'm really stoked. Things are looking great.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to actually join us on the show this week.
Mothman T-shirt because I live close to West Virginia, and Mothman's an awesome story.
Nice.
That's cool.
I wanted to wear something loud, but then I realized that you can't really see it unless I point down. But it's really loud.
And if you're listening to the audio version, you can't see it at all. So just use your imagination. It's
badass loud.
It's really kind of an ironic misnomer.
So, all right. So, are we ready? I'm ready.
I think we are ready.
It's like the Clash. This is like the Clash of Metal. I mean, like any bad car accident. We're all rubbernecking right now. That is the concept of this episode. So let's just get right to it. And of course, an episode like this is all about making friends in the game industry by pointing out the failings of others. So away we go.
Yeah, we should have a delightful evening of Schadenfreude. So. What the fuck game publishing moments? We have so much ground to cover. I'm not going to do a major vociferous intro. So let's just go right ahead with some examples. Mike, as the senior contributor, what is the earliest what the fuck game publisher moment that you can recall?
You know which one I'm going to tell. All right, I'll try not to belabor this story too long, and I'm not going to mention the company that it's about. And if any of you know the company, don't say it because I don't want to have to moderate the brutality of the story. Let's just say that if you go to drivethrurpg.com, there are 15 top publishers on the left-hand side of the page. It's one of them, okay? It's one of them.
Okay.
So I'm at Gen Con. I think it was 2002. Yeah, it was 2002. It was the last one that was in Milwaukee. And Skirmisher had just published its first book, which was Experts, about the expert non-player character class, an entire extrapolation of it in book form. But in those days, we didn't have The Infinity magazine. Skirmisher today is a co-publisher of The Infinity magazine. In those days, we had Skirmisher Online Game Magazine, and we ran a lot of game reviews. I mean, hundreds of them over a couple-year period. We had quite a few contributors, including Sharon Doherty and a few other people. So I was going around the convention floor trolling for review copies of select things, and there was this company that shall remain nameless that was considered pretty hot as a D20 publisher. D20 had really just started at that point. So there were a few new things they had out that I wanted copies of so that I could write laudable, good reviews for them. So they're at Gen Con. They paid a fortune to be there, and they're there presumably as outreach to their public. So I go to their booth. I go to their booth and I give my spiel, and there's two fat sacks of shit, 6 foot tall, huge beards, black t-shirts, standing there. And if you've ever seen Blade Runners, there's that scene where the puppets in J.F. Sebastian's house, where their eyes are like quivering and they're looking at it, that's what these guys look like. They're completely terrorized. They're completely terrorized. They can't give away review copies. They can't do anything. All they can do is stand there and look scared while this little guy who's 150 pounds lighter and a foot shorter than them tries to pitch them on what he's doing. I got to come back. There's this woman who I have to see. Okay, it's fine. No problem. I go and I do my stuff, and half a day later, I come back. Well, these two slobs are still there, or ones that look just like them. They still are completely unempowered to do anything. This woman's not there. Okay, I'll keep going. I guess it's the next day. I finally come back. And these slobs are there, and they say, she's here. She's here. Oh, okay, good. Things are looking up. So I move up to the edge of the booth, and they point her out to me. She's laying on the floor of the booth. She's the booth manager of this expensive booth for this prominent game publishing company. She finally condescends to show up to do her job, and she's laying on the floor of the booth. She's laying on the floor of the booth, clutching this whimpering brat. And she's laying there clutching this brat, and I'm aghast. I mean, this isn't the way people in civilized countries conduct business, but they pointed her out to me, and she's laying there. So I start to give her my spiel, and she's clutching this brat, and she won't look at me. But she hears me speaking, and she says, quote, "Not now. Not now."
Wow.
Absolutely fucking mind-boggling. Absolutely fucking mind-boggling. And that was it. I mean, I just couldn't come back after that. I didn't know what would happen if I came back after that. You know, I didn't know if she would have euthanized the kid or been breastfeeding it or been working on the day. I don't know. I was just afraid to come back after that. It was just so bizarre and horrible. So that pretty much destroyed any respect I had for this particular company. And suffice it to say, I have not written one word about them in the last 13 years. They've done okay without me, but I just didn't want to touch them after that. So all my stories after this will be shorter and less impassioned. But that was the year that I founded Skirmisher, and Skirmisher entered the realm of D20 and RPG publishing, and that was one of my first and seminal moments. And what do I take away from that? That there's a lot you can learn. In the last 13 years, I've always told my booth personnel, do not hesitate to give away a review copy if somebody asks for it. Get their card, get their contact information so we can badger them, but do not wait to talk to me. You are empowered. If you can't be empowered, go away.
Yeah. Like, you have to be able to make critical decisions. I mean, like, the thing about review copies, as a person who reviews a lot of things, in some ways it's the cost of doing business, because I try to explain this to people. If you think that I change my review score because you gave me a free product, you've never seen my game room. Like, I hate to say it, it's not an arrogance thing. I just don't. Exactly. I'm being frank. I have more miniatures than I'll ever need. Right. I don't need it. Like, right. Just, I'm not gonna buy everything. I mean, like, now that I'm in a different situation. I mean, when I was on my own, it was one thing, but like, now that I'm in a different situation, there's definitely things that I will, that I'm more apt, if I feel like it's something that I really want to get a look at and see if it's any good, I'll make it happen. But the thing is, it's it's just, that's the thing. People always, there's a lot of worries, especially now, about corruption in game journalism, and I'm not going to address it any more than that, because I don't want to start any kind of flame war. I find it just really funny, because I just don't know many people. I'm sure there are people who like get a free thing and they're like, I got to write something nice about this, but it's just, to me, it's not really, the free thing isn't much of an incentive.
Right. Right.
It's not worth my integrity.
No, well, absolutely not. I agree on that. Now, that said, I won't personally review things that I have had to pay for. I don't have time to review that much. Frankly, that's just an editorial policy I have. If somebody's not willing to give me a copy of it, really, then I'm not. They don't really want me doing anything. They're not willing to just sort of facilitate it and make it happen. Then I'm not going to bother.
We're talking about mess ups, but I just want to say once again, and like I feel like this is the second time people are going to think I'm on their payroll. Once again, Wizards has been one of the best, like, with that kind of thing, because I've been critical of books that they've given me in the past, and like they'll look at, they would send me an email and be like, I remember actually a distinct email that I got where it was like, sorry you didn't like that one, hopefully it'll be better the next one, and they kept sending stuff.
That's the only attitude you can have. Really,
you
it's
got
the
you got to be classy about it. And also, reviews are subjective. I mean, basically, as you read my writing, you're going to get an idea what my tastes are for games. And if your tastes line up with mine, then you can use that. I mean, it's the same way you'd use a movie review. You have to find, like, the thing is, there are not, you know, like, I can't go by most people's movie reviews because of my, like, the bizarre things that I'm into. You know, you can read so much into that. But
I know some of what you're talking about.
the thing is, I have to find people who are interested in trashy sci-fi and stuff like that can appreciate those things for what they are. Because if I went by the reviews of the general populace, there's a ton of movies that I love I never would have seen.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my tangent on reviews. You want me to go? You want me to do mine? Because I'm just going to go right in, and I'll talk about it too. I'll go
right ahead.
All right. So like Jon Stewart had George W. Bush, and I have my own GW. So like, and they are a source of endless joy. I've got to point this out. I actually like their products and I play with them and stuff like that. The company just makes a lot of problematic decisions, and I can't help but write about them. And when we were thinking about when I first got the topic for this episode, it was so hard to pick one moment for this episode because as a writer who writes about miniature games, they are an absolute treasure trove. And the thing that's so great about them is that, like, it's not even clickbait because it's really happening. Like, it's great. So it's one of those things. Now, people love to bash GW, and I'm going to say right off the bat, they do a lot of things really well. I understand that some people don't want to admit that, but they do. There's a reason that people get so inflamed about them, and it's because people are so passionate about their world and their product. That being said, they've made a lot of blunders more recently. They in the past, they actually had a pretty good, steady record of quality, but they've made a lot of bad decisions, and not always with product. A lot of times it's with just goofy litigious decisions. And this one, I think, is just the granddaddy bad lawsuit. I mean, if you wanted, like, the greatest example of a terrible lawsuit in gaming, I don't really know of a greater one. Now, I'm not a video game player, so maybe there's one that's better than this, but I feel like this one is incredible.
It is.
And it is the Games Workshop Spots the Space Marine debacle. And it is a blunder of magnificent proportions because not only did it cost them money and time, but it promoted the thing that they were trying to shut down to a degree that it never would have been promoted in a vacuum. And in the end, benefited the person that they were going after to such a degree that the pendulum swung literally the complete other direction. For those of you not familiar, there's a link. I don't know if we can share it. It's the Amazon page for Spots the Space Marine. And so Games Workshop had it in their minds that because Space Marines are their thing, the Adeptus Astartes, that's their big moneymaker, that they somehow owned the right to the term Space Marine. Now, of course, that's completely ludicrous because, I mean, there's a million examples, the greatest and most obvious being Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers.
Right.
Where that
generic term.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's the same thing, actually. It's the same reason why now the Imperial Guard in that world are called the Astra Militarum, because you can't patent Imperial Guard. It just isn't something you can own.
The Romans put that into the public domain, I think.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So this was very problematic. So what it basically is if you get a chance, you can click on the link. Did we post it?
Yes, we did.
Awesome. If you get a chance, click on the link, and I want you to look. The thing is, like, I need you to look at the picture, okay, of the book. It's really important because this, they said, somehow could be confused with their product. And in addition to that, for those of you who are watching this and are familiar with the grim, dark future of the 40K universe, I'm going to read you the book description because, remember, the concern was it wasn't, it's not the forces of chaos.
It was grand confusion, I think.
Yeah, it's not the forces of chaos we have to be worried about. It's independent authors like MCA Hogarth that we have to be concerned about. I'm going to read the description. Pollyanna meets Starship Troopers in this fast screenplay-like novel about a 30-something Marine private called out of retirement to join a war against the crabs. But shattered morale is the least of her company's problems, and their survival may hinge on an unlikely friendship forged between an alien's weapon designer and a mother-turned-warrior. And I know this sounds incredibly like the story of Worm. The parallels are just phenomenal. So I can see how you could be confused. You know, it's bizarre to me. It's completely bizarre. And of course, it completely backfired. And I want to point out the other villain in this entire story, which is Amazon.com, who initially pulled. It's funny because I sent the link to Amazon.com, but they initially pulled the book on GW's word without doing their own due diligence. And it was actually, and this is a great moment, it tells you something about the quality. I get down sometimes on humanity. But it was people writing them that helped get this reversed because it's completely absurd. And of course, so in the end, GW lost big. But the thing that's so painful is it really was the reputation that got hurt the most. Because if you ever wanted to look like a bully, pick on an independent author. I mean, like, come on. It's completely bizarre.
Well, it goes even further than that because Games Workshop shut down both the forums on their own website and their own Facebook page to prevent people from commenting on this.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. I mean, this is how they have in many ways. I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. I do think that their recent stock problems are part of this. They've in many ways ostracized their rabid fan base, which is incredible. It's like you have to do work to do this. These people love you. You know, you have to work actively to make them dislike you. They want to love you.
That's true. Yeah, exactly so. I mean, that's what I just feel like. I feel like that when it comes to the genre, games or movies, I want to like them. If I end up liking something, it's because they've really, really, really tried to make me dislike it.
So, as I said, it was a complete PR nightmare, and it destroyed a lot of it. It really, number one, it reinforced the idea that they're an overly litigious company. Number two, it made them look foolish. And number three, by drawing attention to this, the second this was reinstated on Amazon, it boomed. Like it did really good sales, and that's what makes it. Like I said, it's just. It's like the triple threat. It's just this wonderful conglomeration. I feel like it totally fits the theme of this episode, because it is the MVP. It's a failure on a monumental level.
Yep. It's the trifecta.
And I'll close it. I've taken longer than I thought this would take to say this, but I printed this out for my own humor. But this, I can't take credit for this. This is from Brojo Pazai, one of the reviewers of the book, because you can just review stuff on Amazon. But I thought this was extremely clever. The orcs can't crush them. The Eldar, who think of the humans as monkeys, get routinely spanked by them. The chaos only netted a few. Let's see this force that sent the this was his opinion of reading the book. I want to see this force that set the Adeptus Astartes running to hide behind the Golden Throne and Big Daddy Emperor of Mankind. And I was like, could not have said it better.
Excellent. Now, Brendan, do you have any good what the fuck moment examples?
Yeah. Well, there are a lot. Some of them less entertaining, but one of them in particular, just because there's a good story behind it. There's this group, and maybe the product was called Alpha Omega, maybe the group was called Alpha Omega. I still, to this day, do not know. Why do I not know? Because they had no product to speak of. But they did for at least 2 years, and I think it may have been more because those were the last 2 years I had gone to Gen Con. But for at least 2 years, there was this group with something. Either it was the company or the product called Alpha Omega that had a booth. And it was one of those big double booths, okay? And so I've exhibited at Gen Con before, so I know how expensive those double booths are. They had one of these big double booths, and they were selling nothing. Nothing. And this was a very fancy booth, too. It had all of these like super high resolution, like giant poster image thingies printed out. Like it looked super legit. They paid models. One of them was
Male
Romanian.
and female.
Male and female models, but they paid them to dress up. One of them was an angel, one of them was a demon, and they did this 2 years.
Did they have like full body paint as well?
Yes. The demon was painted head to toe.
They were right across from the skirmisher booth one year.
Right across from the skirmisher booth. And the reason why this is a what the fuck moment is because to this day, and I've Googled them. I make this a yearly thing. Instead of going to Gen Con, I Google Alpha Omega. That's my thing now. And I check to see if they exist. There is a publishing company called Alpha Omega that publishes Christian school material.
Well, that's not these guys.
That's not these guys. I have no idea who these guys are.
That's the story of Jesus.
Right. Which is totally legit. I totally get that. That's fine. They exist. They do their thing. They make money. No. This company that did this Alpha Omega thing disappeared. They don't have a website. I have no idea who they are, but they were right there, and I got to look at them for 2 years in a row, and somebody had more money than wits and was willing to throw several $1,000s at this PR stunt for a product that never came to be.
And as far as we can tell, and this is not bullshit, this sounds terrible to say, but as far as we can tell, and this is the absolute truth, the guy running the booth was by all accounts a Bulgarian sex trafficker. As far as we can tell, that's what he was. He was a Bulgarian. He was like Bulgarian, and he was actually like trying to buy and sell people at the convention. It was really kind of disturbing.
All right. Well, I have to. Okay. So Will just posted a comment. According to Daryl Mott, it was Mindstorm Labs.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
I got to be honest with you. I'm out of my element here because I'm not 100% sure I know what we're talking about.
But no, you wouldn't know what we're talking about because it was never a thing. It never happened.
There's nothing to talk about.
What is there to talk about? I don't get it. That's why it's what the fuck. Why would you do that?
Well, read into this what you will. Thanks to Daryl Mott Jr. From the Gamers Tavern podcast. Thanks to his information about. So I've dug up some information on Mindstorm Labs. So Mindstorm Labs did apparently make a tabletop RPG called Alpha Omega: The Beginning of the End, which apparently came out in 2008.
Yeah, well, it had an Emmy nomination, so I really hope there was actually a product.
What? How could it get an Emmy nomination if there was nothing to
never
buy?
saw the game. Well, you couldn't buy anything at this booth.
I looked. I could get my photograph taken with two roided out male models in head-to-toe paint.
I don't want to like retract Brendan's WTF, but is there any possibility that it could have just been sold out, like that they actually did really well?
No, there was no display. They literally had no.
From the very beginning, there was not even a handout to explain what it was.
And actually, if it came out in 2008, when this first happened, it was 2007. So they actually didn't have a product.
Yeah, that's right. That was 07 that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I'm glad that they ended up turning it around.
We're so glad there's
but at the time, it made no sense to me. And I still couldn't find it. By Googling the term Alpha Omega, I could never find whatever it is that they made. But it is now Mindstorm Labs, and I'm gonna have to I will have to check out what they made. Now we know. Thank you, Daryl, for knowing the minutia of the game industry.
That's what we're here for, and this is like a what the fuck moment that lasted like 3 years.
I couldn't figure it out.
Well, I mean, like, here's the thing: even if the product actually existed, if it wasn't there, I guess in some ways that's a WTF no matter what.
Yeah, pretty much.
So.
All right, I've got one. I've never been good at being a loyal fanboy. If a TV show does a bad season, I stop watching the TV show. If 2 bad novels come out in a row, I drop the novel series. There's plenty of things that I have dropped halfway through because of like a drop in quality just hit me in the wrong way. So I'm not good at being loyal to things. But what I used to be super into, and Rico, you'll like this because it ties back into it. So back in the 90s, I really wanted to get into tabletop miniature gaming because it looked really awesome. But the only game that was really out there was Warhammer 40K in my area, and I didn't have $100 for the big starter box.
Mm-hmm.
So while my interest was still high, this new game came out called Warzone, which was based on Mutant Chronicles.
Yeah,
and it was
absolutely
great because to play it, yeah, I didn't have to buy a $100 box. I just had to buy like a $25 rulebook and then whatever squad people I wanted. So I like for a third of the price, I'm now getting into a game that, having played both friends, I found played faster, smoother. I really, really liked it, and it really was. At the time, Warzone really was giving 40K a real run for your money. What you have to understand about this industry, it is so hard to compete with Games Workshop, especially back in the 90s, but they were doing it. So anyway, so the game's going really well. I'm really, really into it. I have a great Cybertronic army. So then the company that's putting it out, I think Paradox Miniatures or Target Games, they announced that they're working on a second edition, and I'm super excited. There's going to be a second edition. It's going to be more refined. Then they announced that the second edition, that they decided that they changed their whole business model to compete with Games Workshop by being exactly like them. So the second edition, how do you get the second edition? You can't buy the rule books. You've got to buy a $100 box set that has 2 armies already in it, neither one you necessarily want to play out of a game that I think had like 10 armies.
Now, the thing that's epic about that is that box set, though, is actually good. But go on.
I'll agree with you there. The components in that box set were absolutely top notch.
The point isn't that it's either good or not good. It's that.
The problem is that like War Machine proved this. Privateer Press really proved this. If you want to compete with Games Workshop, you have to actually offer a real alternative. And Privateer Press makes a very different game, and that's why I think that they're doing well and really becoming a challenger brand, because I agree, they're not trying to be GW Light.
Yeah, and that was the thing with the new Warzone. It was just DW all over again. So I never got into the new edition. I dropped it, and the new edition, I don't think it lasted more than a year and a half before they went out of business. Oh yeah, and right before they went out of business, they started selling the core rulebook separate, but by then it was too late.
Yep.
And Warzone, they've tried to revive Warzone many, many times. It's a really good IP, but it has never taken hold since that first edition.
It's also a criminally underrated movie, Mutant Chronicles.
Now, it doesn't have anything to do with the source material, but it's still an underrated movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's vague. It's there, though. I mean, it is there. It's just it's not...
It's got Ron Perlman, and that counts for something.
Exactly, and he's great in everything. And the Bauhaus guy is cool. I can't remember I don't know if he's a famous actor, but he's great. And Bauhaus is
Mike, any
what?
Mike, any what the fuck moments of your own?
Well, I gave the one about that company. So that was an extensive story. I don't mind moving on.
I got another one.
That was by what?
I got another one.
Well, don't we have a question we have to all address?
Oh yeah, we got to answer questions. Can I do a really quick one? It's like 2 seconds.
I'm going to count starting now.
Okay. All I have to say is Conan and maps.
Okay. Okay. Then if you're going to say Conan and maps, then I'll say Conan and the abbreviation for pound. Does everybody remember this one?
No, I don't remember. I remember the plagiarized map debacle, which is hilarious.
In the first edition of Mongooses, Conan, somebody did a universal search and replace, and then they sent the damn thing to print without proofing it. Somebody decided, obviously initially when they laid out this book, the abbreviation LB for pound didn't have a period after that. So somebody did a global search and replace for LB and replace every LB in the book with LB period. So even when LB appeared in the middle of other words, they had periods.
It's terrible. How did that not get caught?
Then no one looked.
And they sent it to print.
No
And
one looked.
actually, in nuisances, we actually have something called the spell book of error, and there's a period between the LB and OOK, and the spell book has a picture of a mongoose on the
Oh my God. So you've taken that WTF moment and just run it like.
All right. Well, so Mike brought up nuisances, so that leads me to because I did my research for this one because I write so much of my own stuff. It honestly does limit my exposure to the fuck-ups of other people. And that's something that I specifically tried to remedy for this show. So I did my research, and I looked all over the web for things that people considered to be the worst RPGs out there.
Oh,
Okay.
my.
And, there was a big, long list, and some of these things people have heard of, like Cyborg Commando, I'm sure, people have heard of, which was a flop, but it was a flop that meant well, right?
Sure, good-natured flop.
So the one that I ended up finding that ended up being on most people's lists as just the top worst RPG of all, and the reason why Nuisances reminded me of this. So Nuisances, it plays on stereotypes, but to anyone who has a sense of humor and is intelligent enough, they'll realize that it's satire. Right? It's pretty easy to tell it's satire. Mike's poking fun at someone who goofed and did a copy and replace for LB period, right? Okay, fine.
We got some backlash on that book.
Well, we've gotten a lot of backlash, and these are all people without senses of humor, and they should really give themselves a reality check because there's some worse things going on in the world than nuisances. Okay, so there was this RPG that was published, and it actually had 2 editions, which was the crazy part, called Fatal.
Oh, yes.
And
The
Fatal's
game that shall
acronym.
not speak its name.
Yeah, right. So it's an acronym. Apparently, this acronym ended up meaning Fantasy Adventures to Adult Lechery. And this, so unlike Nuisances, it was full of stereotypes and misogyny and racism and all that stuff, but not in the tongue-in-cheek satirical way. Not in the way where you point it out and people think, oh, wait, right, that is stupid. That shouldn't exist. This is in the way where someone is full of themselves and really does believe that it's true.
Could you say the acronym one more time?
Fatal, okay, is Fantasy Adventures to Adult Lechery. Okay. So this game was full of mathematical formulae that included things like square roots, exponential equations and things like that, and you were even able to calculate things down to okay, there's no real political correct way to say this. You could calculate someone's anal capacity. Because it was effectively a rape simulator. This game was a rape simulator, and there was a second edition of it.
It's not good.
So this guy didn't give up after the first time. He did it once, and people were like, I can't believe you've done this. And then he did it a second time, and again, people couldn't believe that he posted it to RPGNet.
Look, I fully respect people's rights to make what they want. I'm very against censorship, but I also feel like you can also shame people for what they make. So,
well, Rico,
it's our First Amendment right
to distasteful.
Criticize something or not buy it, or
Sure.
I mean, people have the right to say what they want, and we have the right to say what we want in response.
Yeah. That's true. But here's the thing. It wasn't just that it was distasteful. That's fine. You know what? Cards Against Humanity is absolutely tasteless, but it's successful and it's okay. This guy's thing, it was a bad game on top of it, and I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Who cares what the game is about, and whether you're offended by that? It's
Right.
the offensive part is that it's not good either.
The game was bad.
Well, how do we know that we're not being trolled right now? How do we know that whole game wasn't just some way of trolling the tabletop gaming fandom?
Well, color me trolled then.
All right.
Well, I mean, like, the thing is, like how much, I guess the thing is, if somebody's willing to work that hard to be a troll, I guess, great. I mean, like,
that's your thing.
Yeah.
You're the troll prestige class.
You've won. You've defeated me.
Yeah.
All right. I've got another example. As long as we're just sort of going free form here with WTF examples. This is an old school example. Back in the late 80s, there was this backlash against Dungeons and Dragons. And and it's funny now to take a look at like chick tracks about, the Dungeon of Hell or whatever it is. It's fun. But some of this stuff was serious, and there's not a single one of us who didn't go to school with someone who got saved over the weekend and came in and talked about how he participated in burning his Dungeons and Dragons books in a church parking lot that weekend. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that was happening in the late 80s. It was pretty ugly. It was ugly. It was stupid. It was pointless. I mean, there were people who were saying that the AD&D, first edition we call it now, Dungeon Master's Guide, was actually a how-to manual for demonology and Satanism. Yeah. So there were stupid people out there.
That's
so
actually
how does because they're still around. How does TSR, because they have family values and they keep breeding, so there's even more of them now than there were then. How does TSR respond? The TSR, for anyone who doesn't know ancient history and role-playing games, is the original publisher of Dungeons and Dragons. It's the predecessor of WotC. How does WotC respond? Or TSR respond? Not with dignity, not with any common sense. How they respond is this. They start marketing the game to the people who are burning it in parking lots and will never buy it. They released the second edition of the game, which is problematic in every way. It's got all sorts of issues. They introduced the THACO system, which sucks. They put all the monsters in binders that break the second time you use them, so your monster sheets are falling out of these big ugly binders. It's just a befucked game from the start. But they do away with the terms demon and devil. The terms demon and devil don't appear because you want the people who are burning the goddamn game to not be offended. This is going to make them buy it. This is going to make them buy the game. So instead of having demon and devil, you call them, I don't know, they were all these nonsense words. They made up all these nonsense words and used those instead of demon and devil. So they alienated the people who would actually buy the fucking thing, and they catered to the people who were never going to buy the thing.
I mean, look, there's been a history of this kind of thing going on during that time. When Magic the Gathering, man, Lord of the Pit was like the prime, like it used to say that when that card existed, and it was one of my favorite cards, that really cool card art, and it was just a really cool creature. But Magic the Gathering, the Lord of the Pit, it originally said summon demon, and then they eventually, this is the best. So they did like the most lazy way of getting around it. They didn't make up a funny, stupid name. They just put summon Lord of the Pit. Okay, well,
right, exactly.
Argue with that.
Now everything just says summon monster. They don't even specify anymore. Everything's just summon monster.
Well, no, monsters still have types. But the thing is, like,
you're right. But when it says what it says summon monster. It doesn't say summon soldiers or whatever anymore.
Yeah, actually, it still does.
Does it?
Yeah,
yep.
No, it does.
I'm gonna have to take a look. Okay. All right.
But yeah. So what, like in the grand scheme of specifying types, it just always made me laugh that it went from summon demon to summon exactly what its name is. Okay, sure, I guess. It's fun. I was like, what a great go around. And then you look at the art, and it's like, it's obviously a demon. Get over it. Like, you're not hiding anything. Because I'll tell you, I'm sure that these crazy Bible thumpers, when they look at it, they go, "Oh, it's okay, honey. It's not a demon." Okay, it's the Lord of the Pit.
Oh, I think we broke Mike. Just stepped away from his machine.
He's only the Lord of one pit. Okay, there's like 9 hells. He's only the Lord of one of them. So.
Okay, here's a what the fuck moment that I keep seeing repeated over and over again.
Here's my second edition's falling apart binder. It's been falling apart for 25 years.
It looks pretty good.
It does look really good. It goes to show you how little he played it because the second edition of the game sucked.
Can we hold on? Mechanically, I agree with you, but second edition also produced the best in terms of the worlds. Definitely.
Yeah, so you're right, and it also
produced
the best video game spin-offs
I'll
of
agree
any
with
game
that, too.
system.
Yeah,
The best video game spin-offs, hands down. BioWare got their hands on the second edition of D&D, and they went nuts. They're like, okay, we'll make Baldur's Gate, and we'll make Icewind Dale, and we'll make all this shit. And they were really good.
I loved the Dark Sun computer games. They were boss.
Yep. But the system sucked.
There's a lot of problems with it.
Yeah.
We played the heck out of it, though. I got to tell you, my group, we played it to death.
We did too. And even then, we had trouble closing the binder, just like I can't close it now.
Will, go ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. So this is one that I see repeating itself over and over again, but no one has ever been or possibly ever will be more guilty of this than White Wolf Game Studios, and that's publishing rules for something and then including as part of those rules, don't use a message saying you should never use the rules.
Oh, Sam Haight.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Like, well, if you don't want me to use what's in your book, like you want me to pay for something in a book that you don't want me to use. You know, this isn't like a nuclear bomb. I have it so that I never have to use it. You know, like the worst example was like the Book of the Worm had was like they had a chapter that was just a tribe book about the Black Spiral Dancers, the villainous tribe of werewolves, and that chapter is so well written it takes what are truly monstrous psychopathic monsters, but makes them like human and like it perfect for like dark, certainly not heroes, but very, very dark protagonists in very, very dark stories of horror. But it's right there in the middle of the chapter. We know we've included these rules. Don't use them. Don't let your players use them. As the GM, you shouldn't use them unless you really want to stat out a detailed NPC. No rules this well crafted should be used. How dare you tell me not to use them?
Now the thing is, do you think that that's just another like too cool for school thing to like they put it in there to sell the book to make it more attractive? Like, you know, it's like when they like on the back of Clan Book Malkavian, how it has in Greek. If you can, you know, it has in Greek. Like if you can read this, you're tragically hip. That whole thing. Like, is this just another one of those? Is that just basically what I'm saying is it really like is it like a marketing ploy? But if it is a marketing ploy, is the fact that it annoys people actually a really big kind of screw up?
Well, you know, there was a really interesting blog post they did about this when they were doing the Werewolf 20th Anniversary Edition, which was that what that was an outgrowth of is that they had this internal policy of what they called screw you hippie game design, where anything that was too cool or too out there, they would include, but with language to shame anyone who wanted to use it, because in their head they became so paranoid and afraid of what power gamers would do with what they were writing.
Aha.
Which is so silly. You shouldn't write it worried about what the worst people are going to do with it. You should write it having expectations of what the best players are going to do with it.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, but not only that, but I think it's funny, once again, this idea that your players have to somehow be monitored. Like what are they going to do, show up at your house? Hey, I thought we told you, don't use those Black Spiral Dancer rules. Like 3 guys in black suits.
All right,
with
hold on.
sunglasses. Hey, man.
Yeah, Brendan?
We're talking about power gamers and what they'll do. So let me take the opposite. A group of people who don't care about power gamers using their rules and what happens in that case. Wizards did this all day long, especially with 3.5. I haven't really checked out many of the supplements since for the newer editions, but with 3.5, I was a younger GM and a foolish GM and allowed my players to bring in supplements, and there was a whole slew of them, starting off with the title of The Complete X. X could be anything. X could be wizard, could be warrior, could be divine, any number of things. None of these supplements were designed to work with each other or even to work with the core rule set without breaking anything.
Complete Fighter's an abomination.
Exactly. They're horrible. All it is a Munchkin Power Gamers wet dream, and that's what they were written for. They buy them, they bring them to games, and then they ruin the game. That's all they do. They break lore. If you're using any of the official campaign settings, they break lore if you're using your own campaign setting.
How many games did Ho spoil? How many games did our friend Ho spoil by showing up with the complete wizard and trying to play some completely broken spell out of it?
They're all broken, and then when combined together, they become the broken RPG supplement Megazord and are undefeatable.
They are a self-parody. Oh, I remember in the Complete Fighter, they've got this asinine illustration of this. It's like a wagon, and it's got like ballistas sticking out of it and armor plating, and I mean it's like this 13-ton wood and steel monstrosity, and it says Halfling Battle Cart, and it's got this little tiny donkey pulling it.
Hey, that donkey had full strength cast on it.
It's not parody material. It's not supposed to be a joke. It's supposed to be for real.
That's the
shame of it.
Will, do we have any questions?
The only question we had, which we kind of touched on, was what is our what's the biggest what the fuck moment we as gaming professionals have witnessed or been a part
I think
of?
we've thrown out some.
We did answer that. We answered that. That was the first thing.
That's what we've been doing all along.
Yeah.
I'll leave James out to this isn't. But wait, do they want these have to be industry people?
Well,
we are industry people.
like did we have experienced firsthand within the industry?
Okay, so like back in the day, and I'm talking about before I ever came back to approach the game industry professionally, I was part of an endeavor that was it's like this is like the dream of every like kid in college that's of my disposition, of the gaming disposition. You want to run games for money, right? So I was part of a troupe that was running LARPs for money, and we ran them all over Pittsburgh, but also at Origins. Now we really went to the nines with it, but it was crazy. We were running these vampire LARPs, and with costumes and the full Monty, and I felt like we didn't charge a lot of money. I felt like you got your 4 hours worth, and you're like however many $10 worth or whatever. And so, Will, this will be interesting to you because you because you write live. Now this is a little bit different for you because you write the stuff. Like we're kind of just running it. You've taken it to a real you've actually made it real. But we were running these things
Living the dream, Will.
Yeah, we were running these things and just for like I said, we're trying to make this work. And we had this guy who dressed up like this guy who was supposed to be playing a Nosferatu, and he was like way overweight. And I'm not trying to fat shame. He just was. I'm overweight too. But he was like massively obese. Dude had this giant rubber Nosferatu headdress, right? And so this is real. I'm not making this up, and I'm not going to say any names because I don't even know if the guy still exists. We played all night into the morning because that's just how we rolled. It's like 6 or 7 a.m. He's outside in this mask. Hours tick by. It's getting hotter and hotter. Dude suffers heat stroke, passes out. We call an ambulance. Shits himself. Refuses treatment. Goes up to his hotel room. Dumps his drawers. Comes back to the game. Honest to God happened. Swear to God. Real story.
What a hardcore gamer. You must have been impressed.
I was impressed by his diligence, but geez, man. I was just basically like, I was like, wow. I was like, wow. But
well,
yeah.
That has happened to me.
Well,
I was
as
running.
a person, here's the thing. As a guy who writes LARPs, writes LARP scripts that are published books and sells them, when you've run your games, have you ever had somebody do something like that?
Nothing so messy. We once had a player. They'd been having we found this out later. They'd been having chest pains every day at the convention. Well, they just so happened to be playing in one of our space opera LARPs. It turns out they had a cyst in their left lung, and that cyst burst in the middle of our LARP. And the person was like, "Oh, don't call the ambulance. We can keep going." And like we had to stop the game and clear everyone out because they couldn't move. And clear everyone out to make sure that they got to a hospital because they weren't going to go and they weren't able to move under their own power. And like the amount of discomfort they had to have been in before it burst should have been enough to let them know, hey, maybe we should sit this game out.
Right?
That's unbelievable. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I mean, on one hand, you have to say, wow. Like, this is one of the things about tabletop gaming. It's like, the dedication is incredible, but dude, stop.
Wow. So, Mike or Brendan, either of you have an insider's story?
Well, I mean, all of my stories have been insider stories. I guess I've got sort of a one that goes back even before Skirmisher. Before Skirmisher existed, I started independently publishing sets of tabletop rules. So like the Skirmish miniatures rules that are the namesake of the company were something that I started developing when I was a kid. I mean, back in 1980. But then in the 1990s, we actually published those. And I actually bagged them in Ziploc bags, just like, you know, old school war gamers did. Well, growing up, there was a store in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where Fort Bragg is, called the Hobbit Hobby Shop. I don't know if it still exists. But I used to go to the Hobbit Hobby Shop growing up. I loved the Hobbit Hobby Shop. And I kind of knew the owners. You know, I was a kid, but, you know, you knew the owners because you would go in there and you would buy stuff. I spent all my money there, you know, buying Atlantic and Airfix miniatures. The daughter of the owner went to school with me and my brother. So there's just like a strong emotional connection with the Hobbit Hobby Shop. Well, I go back in the late 1990s with copies of our games. And this was my first published game. It was self-published, but it looked fine. It looked as good as anything that was on shelves as far as small, you know, war games go. I went back to the store that I had this emotional connection with, and I approached the owner and I said, you know, I just want to see this game on your shelves. Oh yeah. Who's your distributor? I don't have a distributor. You know goddamn well I don't have a distributor. You see me pulling these. You see me showing. Oh yeah, sorry, nothing we can do. I would have accepted him putting those on his shelves under any circumstances. If he said, leave me a half dozen of them and I'll pay you next time you come through town if they sell, and then threw the fucking things away, I never would have known. He could have told me anything at all. But no, he played the dick card. He just played the dick card right there in front of me.
Well, dude, you want to my episode we can do. We can talk all about the distribution
professional game developer. Douche.
Brendan, any last insider story from you before we move on to our final thoughts?
Oh, I kind of blew my load earlier as far as insider stories go. No, final word time. That's what I think it is.
Oh, all right. Well, since you initiated it, we'll go ahead and give you the first final word.
Yeah,
Brendan.
yeah. Give me the first final word. That way I can redeem myself here. I've been plugging my video game because it's cool and it deserves plugging, so I'm going to continue to plug it. I'll remind people that I've made a random tavern generator. It's on d-infinity.net. Next is going to be a random brothel generator, again based on the excellent work of Will Thrasher's Jester Dragon's random brothel generator. So again, it's one of those places that your players will inevitably go to and you will not have prepared for it to exist. So just trust me.
And then we're going to follow up with a random cult generator. And Brendan and I have been working on what we need to do to have a random occult symbol generated every time you generate a new cult. This is actually logistically fairly demanding. Think of that. Every time you click, a new random symbol pops up. So we've been working on that.
Yeah, so brothel generator, cult generator. After the cult generator, who knows? I'm thinking of using some of the excellent oddities content on D Infinity. All kinds of excellent tools for GMs. And the Little Orc Wars video game is coming right along. Sam Klassens, my co-developer, is pulling together a video, maybe even right now, or he was doing that earlier today, of all of the excellent progress he's made with the UI, the siege mechanics, and all this other cool stuff. This game is going to be fantastically fun. And I'm not telling you that because I'm imagining it. I'm telling you that because A, it's based off of a floor game that's fantastically fun.
Yep.
B, the video game is going to be exactly like the floor game, so therefore fantastically fun. And C, there might not be any content in it yet, but I've been playing around with the alpha mechanics for the game, and they're fantastically fun. So keep an eye on all of our social media. Keep an eye on the D Infinity website, and we'll be opening it up at some point within the next 3 or 4 months for beta testers. So beta testers I tend to be very appreciative of, and they tend to get free copies of games when they do that. So yeah, I'm excited about that. You should hear it in the tone of my voice. Keep an eye on it.
All right. Well, my own final thought. As a gaming professional, I want to avoid as many what the fuck moments in my career as possible. And what I always try to keep in mind, and what I urge everyone to keep in mind, is, first and foremost, make the kind of games that you would like to play, or that you would have liked to have played when you first got into the hobby. So, when I'm doing anything, I do think, oh well, how would I feel if I was the player? How would I feel if I was the fan? And if my response would be, what the fuck? Then I don't do that thing. And that's how I chiggity check myself so that I don't riggedy wreck myself, and then I encourage you to do the same. And
that's a good rule for life, actually. Too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, sort of the golden rule.
Kant's categorical imperative, absolutely.
I like that way of looking at it. Rico, as our special guest, we will give you the final word.
Oh man!
When do I get my final word?
Where's Mike's final word?
Final word, motherfucker. When is mine?
You will wait your turn, Michael.
Oh, okay. So he gets the final word, but I get the ultimate final word.
Yeah, you get the ultimate final word.
All right, sorry. I just wanted to make sure.
This is actually, we just do this bargain, and what actually is going to happen is we're going to cut off right after I'm done. So, yeah, I guess my thing, I would take my pitch off of what Will just said, because he said it so eloquently. Effectively, what I would add to that is this. I try to avoid those moments as much as possible. I make mistakes like anybody else. I guess that's the thing. Like, we're all having a laugh at some people's unfortunate behavior or some mistakes they made or whatever. But it is important to understand that, like, these are human beings and they're fallible, and people do great things and they mess up sometimes. And it's fun. It's fun to have a laugh and it's fun to poke fun. But at the same time, we also have to acknowledge the fact that, look, I mean, we're all going to have that moment, whether it's in gaming or in life, and many moments. It's not even going to just be one where we make mistakes. And I think it's fine to joke about it, but we also have to do it with a sense of without a sense of true malice. I mean, save that for something maybe more serious than games.
Right.
And so, So when I crack a joke at GW's expense, for example, it's in good fun. I'm laughing with you guys. I'm laughing with you, GW. Not always at you. But I do find some of your behavior just ridiculous. So there you go.
All right, it is now your turn, Michael.
All I will say is, come out and see us at Geek Bar Chicago 6 nights from now. We're going to be at Geek Bar Chicago on Wednesday, March 4th. We're probably also going to be there on Thursday, March 5th. We're going to be at Game Quest in Fort Wayne on March 6th. We're going to be in Wheeling, West Virginia, March 7th. And then we're going to be in Pittsburgh for a day or two. So come see us at one of these places. And hang out with us and shoot the shit a little bit, because that's why we're doing it.
I'm going to take one more word.
No.
I just
This
want
is
to
the
say
bonus
thank you
word, so
guys
it doesn't
for-
count as final.
I do want to say thank you. I forgot to mention this in my final word. I do want to say thank you to you guys for inviting me. It's always a blast. The next best thing to talking to gaming is talking about gaming, and I always appreciate it.
We love having you, so thank you for
Thanks for
coming on.
stopping by, Rico.
Yeah, you're always a great addition. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been yet another edition of D-Infinity Live. Check us out on our website, d-infinity.net. See what we have going on. Enjoy our stuff. Check out Enrico's stuff everywhere you can find him. Tabletop Gaming News, Ravage Magazine, playunplug.com. So
Gamers
for
gotta
myself, William Big T Thrasher. What's that, Rico?
I said gamers got to eat.
Yeah,
Check
gamers
out
do
my
got to
stuff.
eat.
I got to buy food. Please.
We can't eat our dice collections as much as we may want to.
Yeah.
Tough for a game master out there.
So for myself, William Big T Thrasher, for Brendan Cass, for Michael Jolly Varhola, and from special guest Enrico Nardini, this has been D-Infinity Live, and we will see you all next week.